Welcome to The Grant, the EU funding podcast. My name is Niels Tudor Winter, and I am the creator, editor, and host of The Grant. The Grant is an independent, non-commercial podcast initiative with the ambition to dig into all corners of the EU R&D funding system on topics of interest for the full EU R&D funding community. Today I'm exploring the corner of idea development for EIC Accelerator proposals. Through LinkedIn, I got in contact with Sandra Anic, who is a business development manager in the Croatian grants consultancy company EIC Consulting. In this exchange, Sandra shares with me, and all of you, how to unfold the technology concept that you have developed into a full proposal concept, how to understand the lab test concept, how to fold out a strong business model and market analysis, and what tools you can use for this. And basically, how to calibrate the technology idea into the EU Commission's frame. All people working on EIC Accelerator proposals will get something out of this. But also people working on Horizon Europe Pillar 2 proposals will have a lot of good, strong takeaways. Please enjoy. The Grant. Welcome to the Grant podcast, the EU funding podcast. One and only still. I keep repeating this in every intro because I haven't found a competitor yet, or complementary podcast. Anyways, I'm still here alone in the podcast world, delivering some content on EU R&D funding to all you dear listeners out there. I am having a small break in my timeline series today. I am digging a little bit into idea development together with a guest I will get back to in a second. So in this initiative, as most of you have realized listening to it and following it, I'm building up a universe, and part of it is making some serious thematic series, and part of it is having interesting guests on board to digging into different parts of EU R&D funding. That's where we are today, and we are in the corner of developing nice ideas, intriguing ideas for Horizon Europe or other proposals that can be intriguing enough to get the grant, or at least be the major part of getting the grant. Now, I'm not going to continue just sitting and speaking here alone when I have a guest on board. That's not nice. So, Sandra, welcome.
Thank you so much, Niels, and I really appreciate this opportunity. I have to admit, this is my first podcast, and it's quite an honor, and I hope we're going to have a good time today, and I hope our listeners are going to find some value in what I'm going to be saying and what both of us are going to be discussing.
They will. So the thing is, the way my method of picking up people or guests for my podcast, because I'm not getting any requests yet. I just got my first request a couple of days ago for being a guest on my show. So still, it's such a green initiative, a young initiative. So I'm still the one that have to reach out to people. But the way I do that is to use LinkedIn and the flow of information running through then posts. And I have made sort of a methodology of screening things, noticing interesting things coming around, and you're one of them.
Wow. I think the main reason, I'm going to go back a little bit as to why people are probably not reaching out is, the podcast is quite new in the field of EU grants, and I think we're all a little bit shy on actually expressing ourselves and how to actually approach those projects. But as long as, all of us just keep our focus on delivering the best possible value for those that we serve, I think that we do achieve that value through our posts on LinkedIn, through the projects that receive funding and all of that. But thank you so much for the compliment, really, as far as the LinkedIn content goes, for sure.
Sure, we'll get back to that probably. But first, without further ado, can you present yourself a little bit for the listeners, where you work, how you work with EU projects?
Yes, sure. My name is Sandra, and I am originally from Croatia. And I've been with EU funds and EU grants already for 10 years, more than 10 years actually. And I started actually with infrastructure, and that was way back when Croatia was still in the pre-accession stage with the EU and with the grants in general. And so back then, as a really young project manager, especially in the field of EU funds, I was responsible for a large infrastructure projects such as roads and sewage systems and fire escape routes and such. So from infrastructures is where I actually moved slowly towards manufacturing industry and helping those companies achieve new equipment, new technologies, new machinery for advancement of their own businesses. And actually it was a big project for a manufacturer that led me towards innovations. And I've been with innovations already since 2016, I would say. And I found myself here. I'm really home when it comes to innovative products, services, technologies. I was recently certified by MIT for the design thinking methodology, which is really, really helpful when it comes to...
Congratulations.
Thank you. When it comes to developing the idea, and I'm literally saying developing an innovative concept from scratch. When you are just looking at your environment and trying to figure out, is there a problem at all in the space that I'm trying to innovate? So that's kind of my background with the EU funded projects, and we are definitely looking forward to bringing in our expertise. A lot of those projects that are going to be connecting multiple EU member countries and just overall those big projects that have a bigger impact on the community for sure.
Mm-hmm. Sandra, is there any? Do you in the work you do you do full proposal development, or do you work together with people where you take parts of the process, or how does that work?
Well, we are definitely keen on following through with the project from the very start till the very end. We're not taking on projects that are dealing with either oversight or maybe just bits and pieces. We do like to be here from the moment that an idea pops up. And we do like to steer the idea towards the EU proposal, actually write it down and prepare it for application, apply it, and then stick around through the implementation and the post-implementation period. So once we are locked down by a client, I always tell them, you're going to be living in a short marriage period with us. So I hope you made a good choice. We definitely like to see through the entire project. That's how we fill up our batteries, and that's how we definitely pull most out of the experience, because it's only then that you can actually understand how powerful and impactful EU funds are once you see the implementation. That's the meaning of everything.
So this is pretty standard for consultancy companies, but what I was thinking is how you work. You know, your part in the process. Do you do everything? If you get a lead in, if you get a proposal in, you need to develop. Do you yourself personally take it from point A to Z, or are you working together with people where you have a responsibility for some parts of the process, and how does it?
Well, within our organization, the way we work, we are definitely divided into small project teams per project, and that's how we attack, definitely. And we've realized that that's the best possible way, just because then we have key people that have specific expertise within the EU proposal to tackle different areas of just writing out the application. Because you really need to look at the proposal from the technical viability side, from financial viability as well, and then if the market is there, if it's real, if it can be commercialized. So those are all very specific expertise and knowledges, and just overall technical aspects that different people need to have for application to be a success.
Yeah. And what's your key capacity in this yourself?
I'm definitely more involved in the project at the very start. I like to just build up the overall architecture of the project, so that the team that's going to actually be working on it has a structural overview and has data synthesized in a way for it to be readable and for it to be accessible from 1 max 2 pages. So this is a big challenge. This was a big challenge for us, but we managed to develop this methodology that helps us understand what is the overall goal, even though it's kind of self-explanatory, but actually it's not. When you talk to clients, they have a different mindset on what the actual overall goal should be. We can definitely capture data on the specific problem. And mind you, when we are looking at a specific problem, we're not just looking at it from a perspective of what is the European Union trying to solve. So it's not only about that, it's also connected to the niche of the product itself. So that's really important to have a good understanding of what is the problem, because if we want to commercialize something, then the problem needs to be connected to the niche. And more importantly is what is the technical solution of the product that we are trying to commercialize and deliver to the market. So product and technical solutions are not the same thing. So product is a whole design, and the technical solution is just maybe a small part of it. And that's where R&D type EU proposals are just great in financing just that specific stage of product development. So once we understand what is the technical solution, we are actually looking into key functionalities of the solution. And this is where it gets really challenging, because for a lot of founders, a lot of stakeholders that are involved in the technical solution, key metrics for those functionalities are really difficult to present at this stage, because if we're looking at the R&D type project, they are in a blank field. And so they do know that they have certain components that they can bring together, and they are just trying to test out if those components will actually produce any result, not just some result. but we still do need those metrics. Otherwise, we can't pinpoint what is the unique selling point. So we always put in a lot of effort into checking what are the alternative technologies, what are the substitutes to those solutions, so that we can kind of gauge how do we need to be better and how can we be different in that way. And so those key functionalities and those metrics is what we track throughout the activities, how they change when we are in an R&D project. And that's what is moving us through TRL level. Yeah, the TRL ladder, I would say. Yeah.
I'm going to stop you now. Because you're bridging very, very directly into the content that we will dig into. So that's good. So now you started talking about TL levels, different technologies and results and so on, how the difference is there. But let's just so this, we need to talk about idea development. You said this is your key capacity. You have MIT degree. So let's just first look at how you work with this as a consultant, or maybe you give yourself, maybe you introduce it yourself a little bit, and then we dig into the details.
Well, most of the time, obviously clients approach us for a specific reason in order to apply for grants. But as soon as they discover how we work as consultants and what we can do, it actually evolves into helping them find their ideal market and helping them actually develop the first year of their business. And so a heavy part of how we work is also connected to how to go to market and how to actually set up let's say one of the two most important processes that every business in the first year needs to have really, really solid. Those are sales and marketing. And when it comes to innovations, obviously those strategies are going to be very different if we're talking tangible products or if we're talking digital products. And to have a really clear understanding on how to set up this strategy, it's really all about understanding the key metrics of the product, what it can actually deliver, and what the benefits are, so that we can help our clients actually monetize and achieve what their KPIs are and what they have set out for themselves once they move past the funding. So the entire actually relationship with our clients doesn't end with EU funding process at all. It continues and it evolves. And then if we started with let's say a POC level funding, we transfer that towards building a prototype that's ready for market funding. We build into a product that's ready for commercialization type funding. And after that, it's all about building capacity for production type funding. So it's a really big opportunity to see how businesses are evolving and developing through EU grants. And those are really precious hands-on experiences that we have with our clients.
So the big challenge in this corner. So I've also been a private consultant myself. I've been in different corners. I've been a civil servant, public facilitator, helping sectors and different geographical related stakeholders to access funding. And then I've been a private consultant, writing proposals or developing from scratch, which is most related to what we're talking about today. And the biggest challenge in relation to EU funding and clients, both research clients and industry, is to calibrate the idea they have to a strategic call text that is related to what they do. But this, of course, is not an issue if you're applying for the EIC, for the SME Accelerator program, right? So first, because we need to combine this. We need to have a focus here on idea development and theoretical and things that you have acquired of knowledge from the things you have been doing, and how you are doing that, calibrating that together with the client in relation to the EU funding. So first, which kind of calls do you normally work with? Horizon Europe? Is it strategic calls under the pillars, or is it EIC, or how is it?
Well, for the moment, we were a part of a few EIC projects that we were delivering. And what I have to say about the EIC is there needs to be a really, really strong level of data that shows that EU can win the market. You need to be one of the best out there. You need to be possibly all alone out there. You need to be the most radical solution out there that you can be. And it's not just about writing it out as we, as consultants, are repeating and repeating. We cannot just write, we're the best. And also marking up a competitive landscape table within our projects or delivering it through, additional documentation is also not going to be the solely information for evaluators to actually, believe us. So it really needs to be a cross-examination of a different set of patent sources, different set of already funded projects. It needs to be a heavily extended research, desktop research into what's going on out there. How are we really being so different than anyone else? So that was one of the biggest challenges when we were participating in those EIC calls.
Yeah, and as a sort of explainer to the listeners who don't know so much about this, so the EIC, that is the dedicated program for EIC Accelerator, it's called. It's the dedicated program for SMEs. And the program doesn't have any strategic calls. It's that you can do. I think they changed it a little bit from FP7 on. So there is areas. So they've divided them into overall areas where you energy, climate, and so on, right? And then, but you don't have guidelines of topic, detailed guidelines of what you need to apply for. It's more, it's within an area, strategic overall area for the Commission. And so that's important. So in terms of this talk, the most of it we're going to have today for you, dear listener, is a setting where you don't have to calibrate your idea into a strategic call text. So that we can put aside. But what you do need, and what Sandra knows much more about me, because she's been writing these things. It's been a long time since I've been dealing with SME proposals. But what you do need in these proposals is that you need to shape. Your business model needs to be super sharp. You need to have a very innovative idea that really you can convince that this is going to open up new markets, going to step over the borders. What is possible now, and you can even continue much more than me, Sandra.
I would actually like to touch base on the business model. And what I notice is whenever we approach clients and we talk specifics, the business model is usually we are going to charge less, or the business model is like If it's a software, the business model is going to be, we are going to offer trial versions, or if it's a tangible product, we're going to use, let's say, a network of distributors. But the business model really needs to capture so much more than just how are you going to charge your clients, right? What we like to use for that, and I'm sure it's not a novelty, but that's just one of our tools that we really love using. It's the business canvas. So the business canvas is really just a simple tool that you can use, and once you fill out all the fields in the business canvas, you have a really good source of information and data on how is the client actually going to win the market. And mind you, there are so many other methodologies, let's say strategies on how to actually charge your clients and win the market over, other than just free trials for a software. If I can even share what I have learned just recently, is the reverse trial model, which not a lot of founders are even familiar with. And the baseline of a reverse trial is that in the freemium version, let's say, you charge the basic features for a very low cost, and then you pay extra as a user for the premium features. And then in the trial period, you get everything for free for a certain amount of time. And if you want to continue using, you have to start paying. Where in the reverse trial, you are given the premium features right away, and you are being charged just the freemium price. So the user is actually just paying a little bit for you to stay afloat, but the user is also using the product. So he's developing kind of a stickiness to it, and he's actually giving you feedback. And so it's a lot easier for them to convert. So those are just, that's just one of the examples where we can really use some different methodologies on how to charge. But the business canvas is really going to lay out for you who are your partners in your business, what is the connection to the customer, how are you going to make the customer really fall in love with your product, how are you going to organize your revenue streams, which costs are going to be included, because a lot of the times in the business model, we just don't see enough how the resources are going to be used in which processes, and how are those processes going to benefit the end customer. The thing is, whenever we are trying to present a project and trying to present the idea, we always need to be emphasizing what is the benefit for the end user. And as long as we are keeping track of that, the whole baseline, let's say I would say a baseline of the proposal evokes a different type of emotion with the evaluator. It just makes him connect with your product because of the end user, not just because you wrote out so many great technical features.
No.
Yeah.
Dear listener, you need to have your eyes wide open now. Because the canvas, what Sandra is saying here, what she's sharing with you, this is a very, very important tool. If you haven't heard about it before, you should indeed pay very much attention, because it is a great tool in idea development. We also used it in my former work. I haven't used it myself so much, but so let's just, here for the reminder part of this recording, let's just take step by step. So what kind of methodology is that your main tool, the canvas model? When you have a client coming and saying, we have this but we need to develop it further into, like it's just an idea. Is that your main tool, the Canvas model?
Definitely not. But mind you, I would just like to stick around and shortly give information to our listeners. If you follow through with the business canvas, it can easily translate into processes that you will be following in the first 3 years of business. So once you set up the business canvas, it easily translates into processes and tasks and activities that you will be paying close attention to in the first 3 years of your business. But back to your question, is that the only tool, the only methodology? Absolutely not. And that's a really great question. As far as innovative projects and EU grants and proposals such as Horizon and EIC and those that are here in Croatia, they require from us to present how the product is moving through the technology readiness level phases, right? And so it always needs to start somewhere on the TRL, and it needs to finish somewhere on the TRL. So for us, it's really important to capture the right starting point and the right ending point of the product. And how we actually do that is the first and foremost obvious question for the client is like, what have you done so far? So what do you have? And most of the times they think they have nothing, but then we discover that they are actually in a very rudimentary prototype stage, and that we can actually apply for funding. And a lot of the times they think that they have a product, but then upon inspecting the proof of the prototype, we realize that there's not much to it. But as I was saying at the beginning of the podcast, we do like to start with identifying the technical solution within the product and what are the key metrics of the product itself. So it's not so much in as identifying at this moment how crazy innovative it is or how much of the market we can capture and win. For us, it's really, really important to understand what's going to be happening down the road once implementation starts. So the tool that we use is a mental map of the project, which is actually just a architectural presentation of what are we going to be doing, who's going to be on it, and what expenses are connected to that specific role, to that specific task. And it kind of starts at the top with having a presentation of what the technical solution is, and we branch out in hierarchy down into activities. So let's say we have a prototype that started as a proof of concept, right? So we're trying to get from proof of concept towards a product ready for market. So we do know that proof of concept is something that has not been made into a prototype. So we only know that we kind of did our research and we do know that those hypotheses can work. So we need to build our model in a lab. And once we say to our clients in a lab, obviously most of them just look at us, as pale as they can be, thinking, I don't have any access to a laboratory. But once we translate that language into, you're working in your basement and you have your computer desk and everything. And so it's there where you're setting up your little machinery, your little circuit, and you're testing out if the wires even work correctly in this setting. And so if that's our first activity, that we want to just connect all the components, we literally walk them through in their heads how is it going to roll out by the end of the project itself. And it's really interesting to see how difficult it is for them to present all of that in a non-technical language.
Yeah. It's always like this. So basically what you do is you shake them out of their world. So they have the thing, but then you say, look, this is what you need to be able to, if you need to apply for funding for this, shake them out of their world, and then they get weary, and then you translate it into their eyes, so to say, so they can say, okay, this is what I need to do. That's a lab. Okay, that can be my basement. This is what I need to do to test. That's a test phase, and I can do that like this and so on. So they get a calm stomach about it. Yeah.
Exactly, and then each activity needs to move the product at least for one TRL. Each activity needs to do that, and the outcomes of each activities are the ones that we need to regularly check if we are aligned with the proposal. So if we're moving away from the proposal, then we can easily identify that we're just not a good match. We're not a good fit. So we're not going to be wasting energy, time, God forbid, money to anyone. Yeah.
Yeah, because I guess that's also what I used to do, which any good consultant should be able to do, is to be able to say to a possible client that this is not a project. I cannot. This is not something I can. We're gonna waste each other's time, and you're gonna waste your money on me doing something that will never get anything. So they don't do this. But maybe if you do this and this and get back in a year, then we can have another talk. So would you then combine? So you've done this, and okay, let's just say then you have sort of a skeleton of something where this can be something that could be a solid proposal and hence a good project for the client. Do you then next phase, do you then go in and use the canvas model where it's much more detailed on what is needed from, so what do we have, where do we need to go, which kind of elements are needed to reach that? Is that how you work?
So this overall structure of the project is definitely the best tool that helps us in the next two stages. And because we have the entire architecture of the project, we can identify by one glance over it who's going to be a part of it. And obviously we are looking for people who have the expertise and skills to be a part of that activity, to be able to handle those tasks. And I do know that it looks and it sounds really simple in terms of, of course, I'm going to put an engineer on the activity where we are building our prototype. But let me tell you, there are so many nuances. And if we are building a prototype that is really heavily loaded with calculation engines, with AI, with so many different machine learning methods, then we really need to have a person who is heavily experienced with this. So don't just put in somebody who has in their CV, engineering diploma or informatics diploma, just because we feel like somebody that, graduated from informatics is going to handle machine learning. So it's really a lot about the nuances. When it comes down to actually awarding money for any project, it's all about those little details. Everything needs to add up. So, because we've seen so many, projects that clients come up and to us and they're asking questions, why were we rejected? We had those competences, we had those qualifications, But once we connect those activities to that person, those tasks to that person, we actually realize that those are not the same languages at all. So that's one of the key activity that we do next. We identify who from the organization is going to be working on the project, and if obviously if they don't have a hired employee already, then it's going to be new hiring or even outsourced expertise, obviously. And then after identifying that, we obviously check for the expenses. We add up all the expenses, and then we need to see how financially viable are we, and what is going to.
I want to put a marker here. Yeah. Before we step into the business modeling, I'm just going to stress to the listeners practically the process of sitting with shaping of the project and identifying the activities, because it's extremely tangible and it's extremely concrete. Normally when you have, it's very, very often exactly as Sandra has explained here, the client or the organization, the company or the university team, research team, they come with something and they have an idea of what needs to be done or what the project is about. And then you help them and support them and build up. Say you need to do this actually also, or this you cannot just do this. You need to have these and these and these elements on board in order to do this. Then you reach the part of the process where you sit down, and that's the canvas exercise. I did it myself online with a PowerPoint in front of me together with the client online like this, like you and me now. And then we looked at it and I put bubbles. Said, look, so this is work package 1. That's the activity there you need to do. Then work package 2, this and 2 and then this. Then under this, what you need to have this activity. You need to have this activity. You need to. Are there anything else? You brainstorm together with the client what is needed in the different corners, and then it starts to shape up. But what Sandra is saying here is that when you have started to do that brainstorm and shape up process, which is it's creative, but it's also extremely
narrow
down to you just you zoom in, tunnel vision on what is this problem they need to solve, what are the things that needs to be done, and then you come to who can you do this. So you go through activity to activity, and you go through the crossovers between the different work packages, because you always have things that intertwine. So who can do this, and who can do both this and this, because we need someone who can bridge things here and here and here. This is so extremely important when you build a project concept, no matter if it's an SME project or if it's a big Horizon Europe proposal. You need to be able to make it absolutely clear to the evaluator that all your capacities are super well covered. Everything you need to carry out the case, to go and reach to what Sandra is going to tell us about now, the business model, because this is what it translates into. Because if you manage as a applicant to show that everything is in place, you know exactly what you need to do, and you know exactly who can do it, and you got the right ones there, then you can start talking about the money. So that's just because you and me, we know what we're talking about. But I just need, sometimes I'm trying to just zoom out a little bit for everybody to be on board, because not everybody knows so much about these things. It's like this. So let's talk about the business model, because that was what you were bridging into.
Business model is not only a key component of identifying if a business is going to succeed and be successful. It's the number one thing that any founder needs to have locked down and solid whenever they're venturing out into new, let's say, either products or new businesses. And business model is, like I said before, not just about how you are going to make your money, but how are you going to reach your clients? How are you going to win them over? How are you anticipating all the problems that might happen when you are entering new markets? So we're talking barriers. And what are the barriers? The world today is so globalized, there cannot possibly be any barriers. But let's think of those in a different way. You cannot expect to be selling any type of pork in some parts of the world. You cannot expect to be, in the cannabis industry in every single part of the world. You cannot expect to easily enter every single industry in this world. So definitely one of the most difficult industry to enter is the microchip industry. So if you really want to present that you have a great solution and that you really know how you're going to go to market and win the market, you really need to show that you understand how difficult it's going to be and what you can do to overcome that. So, also what other correlations are happening when you are developing an innovative product. Are you going to have to buy patents from somebody? Are you going to have to license technology from somebody? All of that needs to be included, because that's how you present to the evaluators that you have a 360 outlook on your success, on your business. So the business model is such a complex thing, but it's very, very, very worthwhile to spend deep work on that part of the project proposal.
Yeah, and it's definitely something where you can. It's not just to make a commercial for private consultants, but this is where you really can get an added value of using a private consultant like Sandra here, because they know, they are doing this all the time, how to make an exact straight business model description of a proposal. Because one thing is you might know how to do it in a normal commercial setting, but that's not this. It's not the same thing as what the commission is asking. You have some different elements, and it's very schematic, or you need that. It's just there's some things that just needs to have there, where some normally would get uncomfortable if they're only from the commercial world, where you need to understand how to describe things and how to angle it in a way that makes sense in the EU context, so to say. I've just been releasing last week an episode on the impact section, 2.1, with two of my old colleagues, and there one of the key takeaways from that, or that one of my guests, Melanie, mentioned, is that you need to put on the glasses of the commission. The commission's why are they giving this money? And you also need to be able to have those glasses on, the commission's why, when you describe the business model. It is correct, no?
Absolutely. I would say it is correct in a way where the European Union has its set of common goals. And if you keep on repeating what is the value for the end user, and those end users are common in, let's say, more than 2 or 3 member states, then you are definitely going to be hitting major points with the commission, because they are deeply involved in awarding those projects that can add value across Europe, for sure. And we are talking about digitalization and about the Green Deal and everything. lately it seems that that's the only thing we're talking about. But there are a lot of project proposals that are not even sure how to approach those two goals in a way where, yeah, but we have a digital product, so we are obviously in line with the Green Deal and with the EU taxonomy, but
everything is green.
Yeah, everything is green in that sense. Yeah. But then once I ask them, okay, so how are you signing off on any related documents there? But yeah, we're still printing. We need to print. Well, do you know that there are tools that can help you sign them off digitally as well, and they are actually verified by the government? And so those are the things that can help you ensure that you are targeting the goals that the European Union is setting. So it's not just about, I have a green project or I have a digital project. You can have either one of those and still ensure that you are locking the other one as well.
What are the key, when you develop a business model, what are the key elements that the way you work with this? Mm-hmm. So you need to make a market analysis. You need to have your figures right. Mm-hmm. You need to really be sharp on your figures. But your market analysis and the business prospects, mm-hmm. Not just the analysis, but also segments. What else?
When developing a business model, the market research is always going to be heavily focused on the trends. So just because there is a lot of value in doing the research on what's the size of a certain market, or who are the key players and competition, but we are talking about something that's going to happen in the future. So we need to heavily focus our strategies on what are the trends and what's going to be happening in the near future. And mind you, also, we need to be really careful when we go into market research. Sometimes people do get lost here just because they feel like their product sits in this market, but it really doesn't. And sometimes people feel that presenting numbers coming from another market is relevant, but then at the end it really isn't relevant at all. Let's say you are dealing with a mobile fitness application and you're trying to solve a problem of lack of motivation. You are not going to be looking into the market reports on how the fitness apps are doing. You actually want to know, why are people dropping out of gyms? So because your main solution really needs to be connected to the market trends. So, and that's how you want to tackle your business model. And at the end of the day, it's all about presenting hardcore strategies, how you want to go to market. And this is really connected with the marketing department, of course, but you need to understand the different models. Will you be piggyback riding on an influencer's profile? Will you be affiliate marketing? What exactly are you going to be doing to win over and to have the visibility that can help you generate conversions and everything else? So those are the key let's say aspects that we are trying to work on, so that once the EU funding is over, the client still has a pretty solid blueprint on how to move forward.
And this is also just to I always say, Sandra, to everybody who's here, they can shamelessly self-promote whatever organization they come from, because I'm an independent. I can do whatever I want. So I'm taking people's time, for joining. So by that, they can also shamelessly self-promote. And you should. I can at least promote Sandra here a little bit. Say, look, and even if you don't win the proposals, then she would have developed you a business model that you can that you can take advantage of commercially, or at least try if you don't get the funding.
Thank you for inviting us to shamelessly promote ourselves. I have a hard time doing that, but I think nowadays I have, if I may, I have this personal agenda to actually open eyes for all those, people stuck in their corporate world and trying to find their calling and trying to figure out what is this startup innovation world that is probably just passing them by. So that's kind of like my personal agenda these days is. So in that way, all of this as methodology tools are just an excellent set of knowledge that can help any individual to come up with an idea, how to bring it in a new way to market, how to ignite that business. And yeah, we can also check EU funds and help you secure funding. So those are, I guess.
That was it.
And I just said, I'm not going to shamelessly promote myself.
But it's, you know what? The first many years of my career was a civil servant. And I became a private consultant shortly for about a year. And then I came back to being a civil servant within this world. And then again back to private consultancy after some years. And, seeing that shift, I realized how people view consultants, private consultants within this world. It's not, and I loathed, and I still loathe the way that segments of the R&D community, both public and private, perceive private consultants, grant consultants. It's not considered, you have a large segment that they don't consider it anything. They don't want to pay anything. And anytime they hear, "Oh, you're a consultant," then they shy away. I've seen consultants, good consultants, put themselves in a corner like this of, yeah, we also do charge a fee, but leave me in peace. When you can pay tax consultants shitloads of money, you can pay management consultants shitloads of money for dealing with your business, but you're not prepared to pay consultants that can lift your business from an average level to super level by developing something that you do not have the creativity in your own capacity to deal with. They do that. That's extremely important and valuable. And I hate that it's supposed to be something that you put in a corner. You don't want to talk about that we charge money for the things that we do. So that's just a personal.
Oh, I completely agree, because anytime consultancy is mentioned, sometimes the overall feeling is like, oh, you are those people that do nothing and just charge. But we are just in the same boat as, and I'm not moving towards, demeanoring anybody in any way. But these days, everyone think that they can be a fitness trainer, and everyone thinks they can be a waiter. And a lot of people think they can be hairdressers. But if you really want to...
Corona did that to us.
Yeah. But if we are willing to stop looking like it's still Corona, then obviously we are going to go to the hairdresser and let the expert handle it. We're not doing it because we think that we don't want to pay money or anything. It's just, if you want to focus on what is core important to you and it's your business, then yeah, definitely let those who really know what to do help you out. And whenever you have on the other side anyone that's willing to help you out, don't even Like, don't even, stress or worry about the money, because a good consultant, and I'm not trying to say this in any other way other than there's always a way. There's always a way. So.
Yeah. And it's not the grants consultancy business. It's not different than anywhere else. You have good people and you have bad people.
Yeah.
Good consultants, you have bad consultants. You have people who are kind consultants, but they're not in the right box, so to say. They should not have been one. And then so it's like this. And then you have, I've met in my professional career, the grants consultancy company I work for, the most brilliant people, most strong people I've ever worked with. I've saw there, what they could do. It was almost unimaginable if I haven't seen that before. It was such a tornado of force of strength, neurons that's just hammering on in there in a pace that I could never really follow. Maybe that's why I'm not working as a private consultant anymore. Couldn't keep up with that. But no, it's there's a lot to gain from working with private consultants in this area, really. And my last guests, university people, they said it themselves also, which sometimes is difficult for university people to admit that private consultants can be good in this to help with, and they it's something that just makes things better.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a crazy bureaucratic machine, and then also it's such a hardcore Shark Tank. The commission. You need to have somebody that's excellent in both worlds, and that's why we specialize this, and that's why we study this, and that's why we educate, and we spend so many hours thinking through that we do the best that we possibly could have done, and that's what you are getting yourself value off of, so.
And the thing is, anybody who has tried to develop a proposal, they know how rough the task is. I use the word rough because that is what it's really, really crunching work. It's and that if you haven't, especially clients who have not done it themselves and they have an idea of but you have a week to write the proposal. What's the problem? No, but you get this attitude sometimes, right? But the work that it takes to develop a winning proposal or a good proposal that's not winning, any proposal, it's such a rough work process, especially the last 3 to 4 weeks before submission. It's
It's a work that's heavily loaded with just trying to identify, is there anyone else out there like you? And in the first few months, we are just trying to identify where are you at fault, if we can say it like that.
Yeah.
And you are trying to find all the, spaces and holes that you need to either work on or somehow amend or make better. But the first period is just, in a way attacking the client to a point where, all sorts of emotions can arise, but it's always in the best interest of the project.
No. Sandra, I can see you have a very sweet dog. I'm a dog owner myself, but she left because the family. She was lying here, and she would have done not exactly the same as she's doing there, but there were some sounds coming, and there's a dog there, because that sounds that my dog also makes.
I was really wondering. Oh my God, she fell asleep. She's snoring. Oh my God.
No, it's like this. Yeah. No. We should wrap it up. We have an hour under our belt now, so it's fine. It's been good sharing, knowledge sharing on how to deal with these things. And there are definitely other things to dig into, so I will get back to you. Are there any other things that you would like to dig into?
Well, as far as EU funds goes, I would just recommend to get your courage on and try and try and try.
No. And I'm talking about, is there a subject you want a new episode?
Oh,
yeah.
New episode on a subject. I would definitely be very, very interested in doing a niche development and how to attack a market fit product from the very beginning. What are the necessary steps? And those, I think, components could be very, very useful for anyone in the SME sector trying to go for EU funding. That would be my suggestion.
In what sector, once again?
In the SME sector, in the private sector.
So you would say more like a guide episode, because this is it's been more like how do you work with these things, and so more like a step by step.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. Yeah.
Definitely.
Practical episode. I'm going to put it down here, and then I'm going to get back to you. I have start having a lot of leads. I have a lot of fish lines out there, but I always like to put a hook in the people I have for any future conversations, because it's nice to create a relationship there. So that's that. I always end up my programs with the toughest challenge. The toughest challenge, Sandra. What's the toughest challenge? Idea development.
The toughest challenge. You mean during the project proposal assembly or overall?
Developing idea development. Broadly, it can be anything from the overall things to get your head around, or it can be very specific. Anything where you say, okay, that's a rough nut to crack every time.
I would say capturing data from the stakeholders.
Yeah,
that's always a big one. It's always
getting information from the clients, so you know what you're dealing with.
Yes, and we are in a position where we have this responsibility, and it comes down to them having their goal of having this project be awarded, but then it seems as though it's really the biggest challenge is to just capture data from them. But and then there are all the different methodologies. Calling all third parties possible, extracting data from all the different parts connected to our client, doing interviews, recorded interviews, literally starting up voice recording on the phones, and so all the tools out there. And if you have any suggestions, I'm so eager to hear anything that could possibly alleviate this. This is a huge challenge for sure. So to anybody listening out there, and if you're a potential client, you really need to know that without you and your help and your data, because you know your idea best, we cannot do our job great. So please help us out.
Yeah, we also discussed it with the last guest.
Really?
On the impact. It is, this is a big thing, to get the information you need to make the proposal. Yeah, it's like this. No, let's wrap it up. Sandra, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and yes, I was so super excited, and I'm still so excited, and I'm probably going to be, I will not be even able to listen to it, so I'm just hoping that some parts are going to be useful for those who are listening, and that
surely.
Yes, surely. I really just hope that whoever is going to stick around till the end of the podcast, the tools that were mentioned, the business canvas, and even this architecture. If anybody has any questions, or feel free to LinkedIn me or what. I'm so happy to help.
Sure,
no problem.
What I normally do, if there are information running through the program I have on my site, I have a hub where I also share episode-related links and so on. So if you have any links, if you have information you can share with me that I can put there, I can also link to your LinkedIn profile, to the company and so on. These things, please share with me, and then I will put it up on my site to direct them to you. Okay.
Thank you.
So, dear listeners, thank you so much for listening to the end. It's a pleasure to run this initiative, and it gets better and better. I get so much nice feedback from people out there. Please, by all means, check out my website. Subscribing is the best way for me to build this initiative. So you have any sympathy for me and what I'm doing, don't mind. You will get an email every week. I'm sorry if you think that's spam, but the email you'll get when there's an episode coming out. But this is just the best way to build up a podcast community. So please, by all means, do that. And then you can go and check out the hub that I just mentioned to Sandra also. It's nice. I try to collect webinars from the commission. I try to collect the participants portal, where to find funding. It's just all the standard links that everybody uses in this world. You can go there and find it. And I try to build it up as I go on. Also connecting with people that have been guests here, what they have been mentioning. So that's that. Now, thanks for listening to the end, and hope you will keep following me on this initiative. Bye.
Bye.
The Grand. You have been listening to The Grand, the EU funding podcast.